This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Luis Obispo County today, and we are joined by Devin Best. He is the Executive Director of the Upper Salinas-Las Tablas Resource Conservation District. Before we talk about your specific district, what is an RCD, Resource Conservation District?
Well, a Resource Conservation District is a special district in California. It's a unfunded mandate in California.
Of course, yeah. a lot of unfunded mandates.
Yeah, so we do a lot of practices to try and improve water and soil conservation in our areas, and we work pretty much on grant funding to do that.
And as I understand it, in some counties there are elected members of the RCDs, and others they're appointed. I think in this county they're appointed by the board.
Yeah.
But you are the paid professional.
Yes, I am.
You're the executive director.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Upper Salinas-Las Tablas RCD. Where is it? What is it?
Well, our office is in Templeton. We have the entire North County and the North Coast, so from Morro Bay up to the Monterey County line, and then pretty much everything kind of east of there. And we cut off on the, like I said, the Monterey County line.
So I presume you've been busy lately. The last 4 years we have faced dramatic drought, and the Central Coast is in a lot of ways ground zero. Not quite as dramatic as the Central Valley, but I don't need to compare pain because we all feel that pain. Give us a sense of what your district has been doing in response to the drought.
Well, actually, it's interesting that you bring that up. We are actually at the epicenter of the drought. So
That's
the
true.
Central Valley, if the Central Valley is feeling it, we feel it even more, because the Central Valley, in comparison to us, has a lot more infrastructure that they can rely on. We do not.
Okay.
What we have is basically a few dams and reservoirs.
Right.
And then the rest of it basically comes out of whatever falls in the sky. That's it for the year. So in 2014, if everyone remembers, February and March, there was a couple of rainstorms that happened, and that's all we had for about 10 to 11 months until the next rainstorms came.
Right.
Whereas in the Central Valley, you may have snowpack and pipelines and the state water project of residents here and producers here. We do not.
So how are you managing? How is the RCD trying to be part of the solution?
Well, that's just it. As we are trying to develop a lot of our conservation practices and dealing with doing some large-scale programs that we're doing countywide to try and get grant funding to help producers and landowners and residents as well to try and do some conservation.
So if I think about this county and its ag, a lot of grapes are being grown in this county. Your district includes Paso Robles, I presume.
Yep.
And so how are you helping, for example, Paso Robles vineyards, which really have become a critically valuable and important part of this economy?
Right, and a lot of what we're doing is working with landowners and producers, not just vineyards, but also grape growers and orchards and et cetera. To be as efficient and as they possibly can with the water that they do have.
Right.
We have a mobile irrigation lab program which actually goes out and does evaluations. Even though you may have the best technology, a lot of times people don't spend enough time to go back and actually monitor and maintenance. So that's like just the first start of things. Then actually developing some other grant programs that we've implemented, where it gives people the tools to manage to know when to actually apply irrigation.
Right.
Maybe like today,
right.
It rained for a few moments. Maybe you didn't need to irrigate this morning, and you would have had the tools and ability to do so. In the past, what we've had is you may just go out and turn on your system and leave it on, and then turn it off.
We don't do that anymore.
We're moving further and further away from that, and we are getting down to knowing the exact amount of rate and how much water to apply.
So you mentioned that in the Central Valley they have infrastructure that can benefit them. In this region, not as much. And as a result, this region relies dramatically on groundwater.
Yeah.
We mentioned Paso Robles. Their Paso Robles groundwater basin is in decline and in some spots is really in trouble. Mm-hmm. Give us a sense of how the groundwater is doing in this community and the basins.
Well, we're going to be, even if this is the wet year that they're anticipating, it's not going to get us out of this situation.
Right.
We're going to be, if anything, it will just give us a little bit more room to actually sort of work on the next cycle of it. Mm-hmm. A lot of what we're trying to focus in more on is developing a lot of the groundwater management programs.
Right. As we know, the state of California is now mandating groundwater regulation.
Which is great, because it gives us a tool to actually come to the table and say, okay, when do we need to be doing what? One of the main focuses that I'm bringing to the table is first, conservation practices. You'll hear that over and over again. But two, what does that mean? That means basically looking at when we do have water during these wet time periods, wet years, wet time periods, trying to get that water back into the groundwater basins.
And how is the soil in your communities? Is it such that you are able to Does recharge happen easily?
Yeah, it is. And actually one of the main things that we're actually doing with the coastal RCD is looking at doing our key percolation zone study and extending it out to the rest of the entire county. And that actually looks specifically at what areas would be the best for doing groundwater recharge. What soil types, where is there pervious versus impervious surfaces. So this gets more refined in looking at, now if we're going to do something, where are we going to do it and why are we going to do it? And what are the benefits that we get achieved from doing so?
Well, you mentioned that this region is along the coast, and we know that when you have groundwater depletion, you can also see what's known as seawater intrusion.
Right.
It's like the groundwater from the sea is coming into the groundwater on the coast. Are we seeing intrusion?
We are, and as I would see, what's occurring is you're getting a lot of situations where we're not having the recharge occur on an annual basis. We have pumping that continues to occur because that's just how things are. And then you have a hydraulic head of the seawater being pulled in. So ideally what we could do is try and manage things where when we do have rain that we're creating groundwater pressure to push the seawater back so that there's more available.
How do we do that?
A lot of that is doing floodplain restoration and creating wetland infiltration ponds, injection wells. There's a lot of opportunities that we just haven't tapped into. So when I say infrastructure, we're moving more into green infrastructure. This is what RCDs do really well. Floodplain restoration gives an opportunity to actually get some of that rainwater during high flow events to go back into and percolate into the groundwater itself. We have a couple projects that we're implementing right now.
Now, in time for the El Nino, which apparently will be coming?
We just finished one in Cambria just recently, and we're looking forward to seeing how that operates.
In addition to the seawater intrusion possibility, or apparently inevitability, some areas are saying what's known as the subsidence of soil, where soil is collapsing on itself and it won't puff back up.
Right.
Is that happening on the Central Coast?
It is, yeah. Definitely is.
And what can be done, or is it once you have subsidence, we're up a creek, if I can use that cliche?
Yeah,
I use a water cliche.
Yeah, right. You are in kind of a dire strait at that situation, but there is the potential to restore the groundwater basin itself, and that will help.
Even with subsidence.
Even with subsidence. I mean, it's basically it's a bladder in its own capacity, and as you fill it back up, it will continue to increase the subsidence and bring it back up. But it's going to take a lot longer trajectory than what I think people are accustomed to thinking.
Let's talk about the El Nino, which I understand the scientists, the meteorologists are saying 95% chance.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they're saying 95% chance for as far north as we are today. What's your sense?
My sense is that we are right in between the Central Coast in general.
Truly?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right between LA and San Francisco.
What we have here is a very unique situation. Atmospheric rivers, which some people may know what those mean, tend to go right through where we are. We're in the crosshairs. It can either go south or it can go north. And if there's an atmospheric river, we get major floods. I mean, this comes...
Are you ready for that?
That's what we're trying to work on now. And the problem is we're still trying to deal with the drought, and yet here we are looking at already dealing with floods.
It is crazy.
And this is what the Central Coast is. I mean, people have heard me talk about this multiple times. The normal is not us. We either have droughts or floods. Nothing of this,
On the Central Coast.
On the Central Coast. I mean, if you go further south, you're probably used to having a little bit more flooding situations because you get monsoonal rains. If you go further north, you get a little bit more of these kind of gentle rains that come through. We're right in between where we may not always get the gentle rains to keep our groundwater basins going, and we may get a lot more of these flashy flood situations. So as soon as I'm done dealing with this drought, I'm going to be moving into floods.
You'll come back?
I'll come back.
He is Devin Best. He is the Executive Director of the Upper Salinas-Las Tablas Resource Conservation District. My name is Brad Pomerance in San Luis Obispo. This is Charter Local Edition.
Thank you.